It's a new joke.
It totally is.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. Welcome back after a week hiatus after the Spirit Week, so hopefully you're able to get in on that. So this is After Teaching Lab. We're going to be talking about teaching meaningful feedback today. Just before we get started, we'll just do a slight introduction to kind of get us going today. So if you are listening to Patsy Cline, you need to stop that. So that's a check. If you need help today, if you need help in the house, if you're here and you have questions, or if you're online, you have a question you'd like to make a comment, please feel free to reach out to Kathy Pinkowski. She's in-house right here. So if you're online, feel free to drop into a YouTube chat and ask Kathy a question, or raise your hand in here. Kathy will be able to help you out. Also, good news, if you're in the College of Letters and Science, Kathy is able to help you out with any pedagogical or technical problems you might have as well. So she is fantastic. And that's from Diane Ready, so please feel free to reach out to Kathy Pinkowski. If you're here, she has her card right on the table there. You can take that with you. Make sure you drop her email. So the next thing as well is if you haven't signed up yet for the After Teaching Lab course for the fall 2019 course, it's graded this semester, so it's slightly different. You can recognize them easily on your desktop. You can get access. You can either the handout will have an access code, or you can email me and I'll send you an access code. And they'll just have our archives from this semester and just some activities if we're going to be doing those in-house today as well. So this is the URL. Really, that's the part that you need right there. So I don't know if you need it. Feel free to take your phone out and take a picture so you can teach you that for that. Okay. Well, today I'd like to welcome Sarah Ricordetti to speak today on effective student feedback in Canvas. Just as a brief introduction, Sarah earned her MA and PhD in Communication Studies at Arizona State University. Her research concentrates on the intersection of organizational and interpersonal communication and explores work-life concerns, emotions in organizations, and conflict negotiations. She currently has an active publication and teaching schedule, and she still has graciously agreed to join us today. So thank you so much for coming, Sarah. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So good to see so many familiar faces, and hello to our people that are streaming in. So Wayne asked me to do this, and I think I told them there was probably 15 or 20 lectures in here, and I tried to figure out what was the most pertinent. So I'm going to go through some things that you may know or you may not know, and then we can talk about the details and answer questions. But I never know the common starting place, because some of you are really familiar and I use your ideas, the things you've spoken up here. So I have some new ideas, and the idea that I'm going to talk about actually came from one of the teaching sessions that Lane told me to try. So my name is Sarah Ricordetti. I'm in the Department of Communication. I teach actively both in person and online, and I've been teaching for 14 years, so that gives you a little idea of my background. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about crafting meaningful feedback. So some of you are brand new to Canvas, some of you have been using Canvas for a long time. There are tons of ways to give students feedback on Canvas. You can send general announcements to the entire class. So sometimes I'll do this when there's a test and I want to say, this question was obscure and so I'm throwing it off my test. And I'm going to give you more points for that. Here's an explanation of how I expected you to answer it. Or if I want to give information about how the overall class did, you can do general announcements. There's also, if you go into SpeedGrader, you can pull up the submissions that the students gave, and you're probably familiar, you can create rubrics in there, and so I'll show you a rubric. You can comment on their documents, editing right in there, or you can download the document, comment on it, and upload it again. You can leave little personalized notes. you can audio or videotape comments, and I'll talk a little bit about my experimentation with that today. And similar to quizzes. And the interesting thing about quizzes is this is particularly good for questions that have a clear right answer. Those you can create audio or automatic feedback that'll go in, so if they get an answer wrong, you can say, I see you got this answer wrong. Here's what I think you might have done to get that wrong answer. And I know there's quite a bit of experimentation with some of the larger massive online courses, the MOOCs, where they're using those data points to then say, okay, if this is a math problem and they solved it this way and they got this answer, here's where they went wrong, and they're using that information then to give better feedback to students. So you can do those types of things on Canvas. It takes some thought and practice, but it's really interesting that you do that. Similarly, if you had a multiple choice answer and there was a clear right answer, you can do that in there. So really cool things that you can do. So when I'm giving feedback, there are two conundrums that I face. The first one is what is the best
way to deliver the feedback to the students? So I'll talk a little bit more about that. The other one is then how do I get them, how do they get the feedback and how do they use the feedback? So initially when I started teaching, I gave feedback for very different reasons than I give feedback for now. So I think I'm getting better at my practice, and
So I want students to identify, analyze, and apply communication concepts. So in this assignment, I have them read about a theory that pertains to internships. This is an internship class. And then I have them do some things with that. And this one is asking them to talk about the stage. So that they will experience in their internship. So that's the identify part. To explain which one they think is going to be, let's see, make sure to explain why you identified the stage might be difficult based on your background, expectations, and past experiences. So that's the analyzing, right? Figuring out why it will be difficult and then applying that stage to their experiences. And then the rubric takes almost verbatim what they would do in that. And if they do it, I can click this and I can move forward, right? And I thought, this is great. This tells them exactly what they're doing. This is wonderful. They'll look at these rubrics and they'll know. It wasn't enough. So what was happening was students started to look at, they would look at their grade, but they wouldn't go into Canvas and look at the rubric. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But because it wasn't reaching them, I knew that I needed to do something differently. So last year, Lane talked about, oh yeah, it's so easy. You can do audio and video feedback. Now, if you were here at the very beginning, I was saying, I really hate being recorded. I hate being on camera. I'm paranoid that people are going to play parts over and over. I don't think I'll end up on any major news network, but I'm not totally comfortable with that. So instead of doing the video part, I was comfortable with the audio part. When I started using the audio feedback, there were times where I would re-record multiple times to get it right. Now I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with it, and I've got some techniques that help me do that. But in order to give audio feedback, it's so easy. All you do is click on this little icon at SpeedGrader, and a video screen will pop up. You can disable the video, and it will take your audio feedback. It records it, and you can leave a message for your student, and then if they have their settings correctly, which we'll talk about in a minute, it'll go right to their inbox, and they'll click on it and they'll use it. So in giving audio feedback, I drew on my discipline and I tried to do some best practices. The first thing I did was I tried to connect directly with the student. So I used their name. I talked very specifically about things that they did in their assignment so that they knew it wasn't just a pat message that I sent out to everybody. It was specific for them, and that increased the chance that they would listen to the whole message. The second thing I did was, often when we give feedback and we type it in, it lacks a lot of those nonverbal cues. And so I tried to show as much immediacy as I possibly could through, I try not to grade when I'm angry, both because students don't do very well, and I don't know that that's the best way to give the messages. So I try to grade with a nice cup of coffee in the morning and when I'm in a good mood. And so when I gave that feedback, I tried to communicate warmth. I tried to communicate support. And so ways that I did that were through nonverbal tone, through pace, through trying to express that, hey, I'm on your side and I'm really interested in your learning. I also did things like tailor my student feedback specifically to them, and I talked about what they did well. So Lane and I had initially talked about this, and he said, you can go through, and it's like as you go through their paper, you can tell them what they did well and they didn't do well. I couldn't do that because those recordings would get incredibly long, and they're not going to remember that feedback, right? So if I use the rubric that told them exactly what they were hitting on the assignment, right or wrong, they could always go to the rubric. But this gave me a chance to say, I love how you did this. Do more of this in your next paper. And by the way, we have this paper coming up, and if you make these slight adjustments in your next paper, you're going to do a lot better. And so that was really encouraging to them, and I saw a lot of improvement in their writing across assignments. And then there were moments where I was reading their paper and it was clear they had totally misunderstood a concept. And that was an amazing teaching moment that they might not have gotten from a rubric. So I was able to say, this concept that you had in here, you explain it this way. However, I think you misunderstood a little bit. Here are some things that you should know about the concept, or here's a page number that you can look back to, or make sure you listen to this other video recording that I did. So you might ask, is this worth it, right? Because it's a little bit of work to think about, okay, what did they do really well, what didn't they do well, and how do I communicate this in a way that encourages growth and learning. I have a small sample size, okay? I only had 8 students across 2 semesters in this particular internship class. I teach sections that are bigger, and I did use audio feedback in my conflict class. I had 25 students. It did take some serious time, but I don't have feedback from them yet, so we'll see. But 3 out of students commented specifically to the prompt, which aspects of the instructor teaching and or content of this course did you find especially valuable? And they said, your feedback. She is more than willing to answer your questions and give you positive, constructive feedback. She went above and beyond to provide critical feedback to assignments and offered help with future internship opportunities that she didn't have to, but she did out of the kindness of her heart. So this feedback is this is the first time I've had them talk about my feedback, right? So there's something to that connection that you can build by using the audio feedback. And I thought it was pretty powerful. Now, the next conundrum is, how do you get this gift to your students, right? I really see feedback as a gift. If it's done well, it helps them feel better about what they're doing, and it's that great learning opportunity. So what I found was, when I audio recorded, then I said in the audio recording, make sure you go into Gradebook, click on the little icon that looks like a checklist, and look at the rubric, because this rubric is the same rubric across assignments, right? Or this rubric tells you exactly what you will need, and you want to do that from assignment to assignment. And so telling them what to look for helped them find it, because Canvas is a mystery to us, and it's a mystery to them as well. They're trying to figure out how to use it. Also, I spoke with Lane, and he's going to spend a little bit of time showing you how to change settings in Canvas. But if you tell your students to change their settings so that they get automatic feedback sent to their email, that makes it a whole lot easier. And then the other trick is, once they've found it, how do they use it, right? So telling them in your audio recording, this is how I want you to use it on your next assignment, really makes a huge difference, because then at least they have an opportunity, should they choose to take that, to improve. So I'm still trying to get better. I found when I taught the conflict class with 25 students, I taught a 3-week class over winter, and then it was a 6-week class in the summer. There were 3 papers, so 75 across the students that I had, and 3 or 4 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, depending on if there was something I was correcting in the recording. I try to keep the recordings closer to 2 or 3 minutes, but there was a lot there that I needed, especially on the early assignments, to notify them about. It just takes time. So I'm trying to play with, okay, there's all these feedback mechanisms in Canvas. How are the students finding them, and how do I get them the feedback that they need, but not spend forever doing it, right? I'm trying to figure out ways to connect more with my students. So in face-to-face, sometimes large lectures can feel like you're just a name in the crowd, or even small classrooms, sometimes students won't talk in class, and so even in face-to-face classes, you can give this audio feedback to connect with students that might be quieter, to encourage them to engage more, or to call them out and say, this is a great idea, I hope you bring it out in class. And then I'm still trying to get better at promoting learning, right? How do you get students to want to learn as much as you want them to learn? So it is not a perfect system, but hopefully it gave you some ideas in terms of thinking about the way you're scaffolding your classes, the way you're giving feedback, and the way you're engaging with students. And I'm going to turn it over to Lane, and he is the technical expert, and he's going to show you how to make all the magic happen. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Sarah before we went into that?
Did you ever get responses from your students about the audio feedback, like, thanks for that note, like, in real time?
Yeah, I did. There were a couple that said, thank you for explaining that concept. I completely didn't understand it, and now I do. So I had a couple that did that, and then a couple that said, you're the first teacher that's done this, and I really appreciate it. And then the ones I showed you, those were just anonymous comments that I got. But they did, it was a way of connecting with it, and I don't know that they always read my written feedback. So, you know, and it was personalized to them, so it was like almost, after you get going on it, it's like leaving a voicemail, you know. Hey, just checking in with you, just I really appreciate it, you know, so.
Can you tell that they listened in the way that you can tell that they read the document? Is there some sort of icon that's?
Yeah, that's a Lane question. I don't know.
What was the question again?
I just wondered if you can tell if students listen to your audio feedback the way that you can tell if they.
But I can't tell if they read my rubric either.
You can't tell if they've read the rubric. You can tell in SpeedGrader if they've looked at that document.
If they looked at the page.
Yes, not if they've looked at the rubric itself. So that's absolutely right. Because that's, they have to open that up. But within SpeedGrader itself, and I can show you that as soon as I just log in, we're trying to transition. Oops.
And then some, I don't know, because Lane brought it up on mine, and it didn't show up on mine that they had gone in there, and there were students that I know went in there because they said, thank you for your feedback, and then they made changes in the next iteration.
Lane, can you make sure that that Skype is muted on your end?
Right.
The document in SpeedGrader, which is great.
But that didn't even show up on mine, so it's glitchy.
Lane, make sure that Skype is muted. We're getting a little feedback.
Oh, are you? Okay, sure. X that out. Okay.
I have a quick question for you, Sarah.
Yes.
So I'm interested in the kinds of feedback, when you were giving the suggestions about improving, were you commenting on kind of the content? Did you talk at all about their writing?
So
What, I guess basically, what kinds of comments were you giving them about improving?
Yeah, so in the rubrics, it tells them very specifically, and I showed you a piece of one for a discussion board post, but especially the papers, I break each component down. Sometimes I attach points to it, sometimes I just leave the rubric open and then just put a general rate. But things like, do you have a thesis sentence? Do you have an attention getter in your introduction? Does your introduction orient to the rest of the paper? Those technical things, I don't say a lot about. If an introduction is completely missing, which will happen, I might say, be sure to include an introduction in your next paper and look at the rubric that will tell you specifically what you need to include. But more of the comments were, I see that you are trying to apply these concepts, but you're not explaining the concepts beforehand, and so I don't understand how you understand the concepts. I know the concepts, and you might know the concepts, but I can't see how you're applying them. So be sure to tell me what the concept is, and then attach your example, and the magic of the analysis happens when you explain how your example and the concept connect. And so by giving that kind of feedback, and that was probably the most common comment that I did, I could push the analysis further.
And that was on the audio.
That was on the audio. Now, they also had it in the rubric, right? There's also comments about analysis in the rubric. But I could even say things like, this concept of effectiveness and appropriateness, you don't define it, here's how you are applying it, tell me how this application connects with this definition, right? So you can get pretty specific depending on how much time. And then what I found is if you go through and make detailed comments about everything, they're probably not going to do much with it. But if you can find one or two things that you can push on every assignment to get them to improve, that makes a big difference. So if you figure out the thing that's most important for them to do that connects with your learning objectives and push on that.
So like some of the big picture, the global issue
Right,
in that paper
right.
versus like the local minutia, which
Yeah.
that's better for like in-text
Right.
comments or rubric of what you need to.
Because I don't want to say, oh, well, on page one, line one, you missed a period, or you spelled something, you spelled coach instead of couch. That's a waste of my time, and they're not gonna go back to that same paper and rewrite it often. But if I'm giving them feedback on one paper and I expect them to do similar kind of analysis or work in the second paper, working through some of that global stuff makes a big difference.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna turn over to.
Thank you for letting me co-op your computer too.
Ah.
So,
Not really mine.
so one of the things that Sarah was bringing up is that, hey, we have some great feedback we want to give to the students, but sometimes they aren't getting that information because maybe the notifications have been turned off, right? So sometimes, and this is something I talk about in Campus Basics a little bit for like announcements, but the same goes for student feedback that you provide your students. If the students have turned off all the notifications, they aren't going to get any of that information. Sometimes students turn off notifications in Canvas, forget they did it, or how to do it again, and so they aren't getting information. They're like, well, why am I not getting any information from my instructor? That instructor should be bad at communicating. So one of the things that I remember Sarah and I were talking about was, when the beginning of the semester is talking to your students about this notification system and how they should turn that on, or make sure that these settings are set in this order, or at least the default setting. So to do that, it's a pretty simple process. You go into your Canvas account. This is where you maybe want to walk your students through. Go to account and click on notifications. Alright, so account notifications, and mine is going to look a little crazy, but yours should be a little simpler, and your student should as well. So notifications inside of Canvas it's controlling what information Canvas is sending to you, right? Now by default, you're just going to have this email address for your UWM EDU account, right? Now if you add a mobile device or Canvas to your mobile device, like this, you're going to see a column for push notifications. You can also have Canvas send text messages, or you can have Canvas send information to like an alternative email, like my email from high school, right? Chester Arthur at Gmail. I was a history nerd back then. So you can add these different columns, but what we want to do is we want to look over here and really want to focus in at the email address under Counter ID at uwm.edu. And the one we want to be looking for, so one is announcements, right? You want to make sure you have the announcements. But we want to make sure submission comments, right? Submission comments are turned to, well, this is once a day, or maybe even a check mark as soon as they come in, right? And this way, when you give your students comments, they're going to actually see a little pop-up notification about that. And you want to talk to your students about that and say, hey, I'm going to be providing comments to you if you've turned off your notifications. And a lot of times, they'll just go right down the board on the X's, turn it all off. Just set it to the once a day or the check mark. If the students are unfamiliar with what is what, another nice trick with these notifications, you just hover over the name, and that pop-up box with the glossary term will show up, so you can kind of see, oh, assignment, submission, comment. You'll get that information that way. And this is just one of the things that you were saying, and I think that's really smart because I've seen this with assignment announcements, but also with submission comments, because that way they'll get notified about that information as it comes in. Any questions about that?
Can I just add regarding submission comments that also is a great notification for all of you as instructors to keep turned on either right away or maybe a daily summary or something, because that will let you know if students give comments to you, either when they're turning in an assignment or after they have looked at your feedback, if they give a comment in response to your feedback.
Right, so this works both ways then. That's awesome, thank you, I didn't know that. So, yeah, make sure you have that on for yourself and don't turn that off, because sometimes we turn things off because we just want to go across the board and clear it out. And that's really good.
Will you also show them what students need to do to see the rubrics in SpeedGrader?
In SpeedGrader.
Well, it doesn't.
I will show them. So I
doesn't show up. They don't have SpeedGrader, but you have to go. They have to go to the grades and then click on the assignment and click on the icon. And so I give students directions how to do that
Right.
because they otherwise don't know it's in there.
I will send it today in an email,
Okay.
that information on lab notes, because that way I can walk you through, because it's kind of difficult live without having student data showing up. Yes?
I guess that is a no to my question, but I still want to ask you. Is there a way to override the students' preferences and notifications?
No, so each
Okay.
one, this is all set by the account. So
Okay.
it's by you and you and you and you and you and all your students.
There's
each
no
time.
way to.
There's no way.
Okay.
Beyond just, I think at the beginning of the semester, really talking about the importance of what you're gonna be doing there, why you're doing that, and they'll be like, okay, they'll be more likely to turn it off. But yeah, you can't enforce that. Yeah, that's too bad. The next thing I kind of wanted us to be able to play around with as well is if you have a course open too, we're just gonna look at just really quickly on targeted feedback with quiz questions, just to show you what kind of information you can provide on quizzes, and then provide some also discussion on audio video feedback. But before we did that, did anyone want to talk about rubrics a little bit, or walking through how to create rubrics and attach them to an assignment? We had talked about that in April, so if you go to the April 10th Active Teaching Lab from Ann Radnett, we talked a lot about rubrics then. But do you want a little spot check on rubrics now? Okay, we're going to go look at quizzes then. So I'll pop open to a class that I have already created some content for. So here's an old class of mine. Open that up. So I'm going to go to quiz. I'll just go to quizzes so I can pop open a quiz real quickly. Here we go, syllabus quiz. And so I go into a quiz. Just to show you, so we're in a quiz, and my goal here is I have some multiple choice questions that I want students to answer. And so I can go, when I'm editing this quiz, I'm just going to go click on edit.
And Wayne, is this an undergraduate course?
This is going to be an undergraduate course, absolutely. But it could be work for anything, I think. And really, the idea here is that we've been talking about a lot of feedback that you can give for written assignments or some smaller discussion sections or something like that, that you're going to give more detailed feedback. But sometimes if you're going to be doing large quizzes, you want to be able to give feedback for lots of students, and you can't necessarily do that individually. But you can do it with some automated and targeted feedback. And so I'm going to go to questions, and I'll just pick one of my possible questions here. I'll click edit. And so I have a question there, and then I have possible answers. Right, so I have 4 possible answers. There is the correct one. If I click on these little bubbles right there, that will allow me to give specific feedback depending upon the answer that they give. Right? And so I can give feedback. So if they get the wrong answer here, identify the day-to-day impact, I can explain to them why that's wrong. Right? For each one of those possible wrong answers. Now, you may be saying to yourself, I have 100 questions. And I have 4 or 3 possible incorrect answers on each of those 100 questions. I can't do that for all of them. So one of the nice things as well that you can do, let me zoom out a little bit, is instead of doing doing individual feedback for each possible incorrect answer, you can give feedback for the entire question. So if they got any one of those red boxes, so they got any one of those ones wrong, you can just say, okay, if they got any question, they got this wrong, it doesn't matter which one they selected, A, B, or C, they got that question wrong. I'm going to give them feedback here, right? So I can say, the answer is found on page 2 of the textbook, right? So you can kind of give them that answer where that is. The other cool thing is if you look at this is a rich text editor. Just like when you're creating a page or you're creating assignment instructions, so you can pop in a video here as well. You can say, okay, well, you got this wrong. Here's a Khan Academy video, and we'll talk about the actual right solution. So you can just go right in, and you can either click embed or insert media from Khan Academy, or you can pop open YouTube and put a YouTube video in as a feedback. So you can put video or a picture as feedback to let the students see, okay, you got this math equation wrong, or this stats equation wrong, or this Excel equation wrong. hey, here's is the right answer, this is how you actually do that. So you can put all kinds of really robust feedback in there, and you can do that for each one of your questions, or maybe some of the ones that you're seeing students get wrong a lot. So that's a pretty simple process right there. Any questions about that? Any things that you're seeing if you're playing with it now? Yes?
Yeah, so if you do that, it's very cool, then when do they see it?
Exactly. So that's based upon what you have set. So these are the questions that I'm editing here, right? And they're going to get that feedback depending on, so this is the detail section, so we're setting up the quiz. They're going to get that based upon, right, where you're setting this, right? So if you aren't letting students see the responses, if you're saying, oh, I'm not going to let you see the correct answers, that's not going to show you the feedback either. So if you have this set, I'm not going to show you the correct answers, and you aren't going to get any feedback on that as well. So you have to let the students see those correct answers right away. Yes, I was looking this up. I was confused about that as well, because you got that same look I have, Sarah.
You're sure that students need to be able to see the correct answers and not just the first checkbox?
They just need to be able to see, they have to see the responses, and they have to be able, not the correct answers. It is it's not the correct answers.
But the first box needs
The first box has to be
Right.
seen. Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry. I was incorrect on that.
Yeah.
This one has to be not the correct answers. Thank you.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, and just be aware, if you allow more than one attempt, but students aren't able to see their quiz responses until the final attempt, then again, they won't see that feedback until their final attempt.
Yep.
Oh, that's good.
So I allow 2 attempts, right? And I say, okay, well, they can see their quiz responses only after the last attempt, only once. Those are going to control that con video that I just shared, or the feedback I just shared. That's going to control that as well. Yeah. So if you want your students to see that feedback, just be careful how you set this, because their responses are tied, the feedback is tied to the responses as well.
Just another.
Yes. Oh, Jane, and then on Kat.
Just another question about that, because I often will set quizzes so that when everyone's done, you have a day to look at the answers or something like that and tell them that, but this box only once after each attempt, I'm not sure what that means.
So they can look at it right after they're done,
And
right?
then
But
that's
then
it.
they can't come back to it. Yeah, and then so that way the idea then again is that they can't just like, I'm gonna memorize the responses here
Copy it or
and
something.
copy it. They can, but I guess lowers the.
No, gotcha, okay, great.
Yeah.
So we have a question online. Is there an easy way to link to Khan Academy other than just the regular hyperlink?
No, you'd have to do, there's 2 ways of doing that. So you could just do a hyperlink, or Khan will have an embed code, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But you can just, so the cool thing is, I don't know if you haven't seen this before, it is really clever. So when you click this button right here, more external tools, the little chevron pointing down, this will allow you to embed YouTube, Vimeo, MyMedia videos, right? If you need to go to a place that's not on YouTube, Vimeo, TED, MyMedia, those places will often have an embed code they allow you to use. Now, if you're saying to yourself, embed code, that's HTML. I'm just learning Canvas, I don't want to be learning HTML. That sounds like a little bit much in one semester. What you can do is you can go over here and click Insert Edit Media. You don't want to fiddle with the HTML. All you do is you go to Khan, you copy the embed code, you just press Control-C or Command-C, that's all 2 buttons, and you click Insert Edit Media, and then you click on Embed, and now you can, wherever your cursor was on the screen, you click Embed, and that's where that video will show up. So that's kind of, they don't have to embed it, they don't have to just put a link in, they can embed that as well, and that way it'll show up just like it would a video from YouTube or something like that. Does that answer ask them if that answers the question? If it doesn't, I can keep on talking about it. Bill?
Do we have a special relationship with Khan Academy to user contact, or are you just using that?
Just talking as a,
Okay.
just like it's just kind of a source for, I know a lot of people use for
Stuff's out
math.
there.
I know very little about the sciences, so Khan is Star Trek, and it's associated with math, like Khan, that's what I'm thinking, and so I'm putting those together, it sticks in my mind and I can talk about it, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sorry,
No worries.
I'm sounding like I'm a shill.
If you did your own video, how would you
if I wanted to do that, if I wanted to put my own video as feedback for a math question, or for any question, I could do that by going to More External Tools and go to My Media and do a video that way. And then that would, again, this is going to embed just like anything else because it's a rich text editor. So it's going to work the same as if you're creating a page. That might be a little bit, creating videos might be a little much for each one of your multiple choice questions, but the nice thing is if you do it once, it's saved for future semesters. But you can easily pop in a My Media and do it that way. I would not use this button up here, the Record Upload Media, which oddly enough is the same button that does audio video feedback. But in this setting, that video would be stored with your course load. So it would count against your 1 GB of storage, right? So if you give feedback via this button, the file is associated with the student, and that doesn't count against your course quota of data. But if you do it here on a quiz, or even as a quiz feedback in terms of that, it's set within your course, so that's going to count against your course quota. So use My Media for that, yeah. These are great questions. All right. Anything else on quizzes? These are. It's kind of a nice functionality, but it is just a matter of remembering about how that feedback is associated, like if you hide it, and then also where those files are being stored as well.
So if you were teaching online though, and you had video modules that explained concepts, you could link them back to the video module.
If you say that one more time.
So for example, one of my online classes, I have a video module that explains different concepts.
Yes.
I could link that in the quiz.
Totally.
And then it's not any work re-recording, you just refer them back.
Refer back to it, absolutely. And that can pop open at the end of the quiz, at the end of a question, whatever it is you want them to see. That is absolutely fabulous way of doing that. Recycling the video you already have to associate it with that file. Awesome.
How do we use the Add My Media over
Oh,
there?
yeah.
Like, just
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm going to click on Edit. No, that's fine. So I'm going to click on Edit, and I'll click on More External Tools. So you'll see this is the rich text editor. It's recycled everywhere in Canvas. On this quiz introduction, on a quiz question, on quiz responses. So I'm going to click on More External Tools. I'm going to click on My Media. And it's just, give it a half second. And it's going to open up, and you're going to see a list of my videos. So it's like a YouTube channel where it's all my videos right here, but I control the access to them. So these are the videos I've already created. So like Sarah was saying, if you already have a video that's associated with a quiz question or a quiz, you can just click Embed, and wherever that cursor was, that's where that video is going to show up. If you haven't created one though, you click on Add New.
Okay.
And then you can either create one with like iMovie or whatever tool you're using on your computer, or you can use Kaltura Capture and create a simple video right within Kaltura. So you just click Kaltura Capture and it'll say, 3, 2, 1, you start recording, and then you can capture the screen or yourself or do kind of a hybrid. And then that can be popped onto the question or the introduction or the page. And that will not count against your quota because that's stored on a different server, so it's kind of bouncing around. Or you can just click upload and then pop a video you've created elsewhere. Does that answer the question? Yes. Awesome. Alrighty. So the next thing we just wanted to talk about was so if you go to an assignment and you're in SpeedGrader, right? And you want to give students feedback. Let's go to an assignment. So I go to SpeedGrader. And you wanted to give that type of video or audio feedback. That's where you would do it, is right here. So we're inside of SpeedGrader. We're going to give the students their feedback. We just click right there on that media comment button. And I'm going to allow. I can start recording myself right here, right? So I can give them that video feedback, but I don't want to give feedback because I didn't comb my hair today,
Yeah.
right?
That's a
Drinking my
constant
coffee
problem
in my
with it.
pajamas.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I can just click on webcam right there, and I can say, I don't want a video. So I'll click no video, and then I just start recording, and then that'll pop open That'll just start going for me 3, 2, 1, and then it'll start I can start walking through that comments that I want to give, some global comments. And then I click finish, and then I click save, and that will pop that right there. And that's what the audio file will look like. If I think, oh no, I did a horrible job, which probably not, but I can click the X and I can delete it, so I don't have to save it if I don't. So that's a pretty hopefully, yeah.
Does the icon, the audio video?
This one?
No, the next one, right?
This one?
Yeah, that does it appear only on a specific browser?
Yes, it does. So this is speech to text. So this right here, if you click this, and I can just start talking into my computer, and it does a pretty decent job of keeping up with me, period. And then I'll keep going, comma, and then I can give some more feedback, period. And that'll pop that right in. And I talk pretty fast. And that does a pretty decent job of fixing, or keeping up with me. I can change it if I want, make that a capitalization. Now, what you're asking, is that only available on certain browsers? And yes, it's only available on Chrome. The rumor has had it for the last 8 or 9 months that they're going to have this for Firefox soon. Because really, this is not a Canvas plugin, it's actually a Chrome plugin. And so it's just Canvas is utilizing it for you. So if you do some text feedback, it's kind of nice because you don't have to type everything out and it spells it correctly the first time. So that's a nice little feature as well, but that's only going to be available in Chrome. But that's available in a PC or a Mac, Chrome too. Good question, absolutely.
But just like your phone, sometimes it will change words
Yes.
or autocorrect
Absolutely.
names, or so you have to look at it before you send it.
You do
should
have to
look
look
at it.
You definitely should.
You don't
Absolutely.
have to, but if you want
Creative autocorrections.
Creative autocorrections is absolutely right.
It's a new genre.
Any other questions on that? All right. So,
I
Oh,
do
yeah,
have a
go
question
for it.
while we're here. Is there any way in the speed grader here to suppress the files that are supposed to auto load? Because I had a spreadsheet that I was working on yesterday, and it basically just shut my.
Oh.
It made it. I mean, I would wait. I'd click in the rubric to grade, and I would wait for about a minute for it to do it, and then I just said, I'm scrapping this. I'm just going to download all the files, mark them that way, and then I'll upload them.
there is not a way to suppress a file this way.
Okay.
You can, you can hack it and tell the students to upload a text file and a regular file, but the whole point of this is to see it on the computer. Yeah.
That's beyond the price. It has to be in Excel because that's the way that's
Yeah.
what the assignment is.
Yeah, it's weird that it's not doing that for you.
Oh,
Maybe they
I
Was
couldn't.
it
I couldn't.
formulas? There were a lot of formulas?
Yeah, and I couldn't see the file. I couldn't see anything, and I just was tying everything up. And I
Did you? I'd be curious to look at that. Kristen, did you have a question?
Normally we have students upload things as a Word or PDF document, but sometimes it comes up as like a text page. Why would that?
As a text page, like just text.
Yeah.
Without,
It
so
says something on the top, like either you can see it as just a text or as like.
I would be really curious to see that. I know if the students upload text, if they upload it as text, if they just copy and paste it, that will show up that way. But a PDF and a Word will render within there.
Yeah.
Apple Pages won't go.
It won't go at all.
No, Apple
Okay, I thought it was
Pages.
assuming that they were submitting as Apple Pages, and that's why like all the formatting and everything was all weird. And maybe that's just literally them just typing into the text box, but.
That could be. Apple Pages won't go. You can restrict what file they load, and I can show you.
Yeah, I know.
You should have seen that. All right. Sorry, I can't answer the question directly. I'm just happy to look at it. The last thing I wanted to talk about is Sarah was mentioning, hey, you'd like to be able to grade fairly and to grade without some biases. Sometimes it's you want to make sure that you maybe don't want to see the students' names. You can actually hide students' names when you're giving feedback. If you go to the gear icon within SpeedGrader, you can click on Options, and you can hide students' names in SpeedGrader. So that's just another option for you there, just in case you'd like to hide the students' names. So you go to Options, the gear icon, Options, and then hide students' names in the SpeedGrader. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
So when we're giving the students feedback in the speed grader,
Yes.
using the icon from the top of the
there's nothing loaded on here. So you would see, this would be like, you'd be able to see, basically Adobe Acrobat, you could put all kinds of comments buttons across the top. Yep.
So sometimes though they were telling us that they couldn't see them.
They couldn't see them, yes, and that is absolutely, that I would reference back to that, April 10th presentation by Anne. She talked a little bit about SpeedGrader in there, and that when the students see it, SpeedGrader kind of shrinks down, and it's sometimes difficult to see everything. Also, if the students try to download the comments from SpeedGrader into a PDF, it won't show that layer of comments over the top sometimes, or especially if they try to print it out, it doesn't work. Yeah.
So, what to do?
There is, it's really meant, if you're gonna be doing comments in here, you really need to tell the students they need to go to Canvas and look at them on a desktop, not on a mobile device, or a tablet. They need to go look on it like a desktop platform or a laptop, and look at the comments within there. In speaker. Don't download them, because some of the comments will be hidden by how Adobe renders it. It's kind of one of those things, they say it works, but it doesn't work exactly as you want.
Do you want to show her how you download the submissions and then upload them
Yes.
without changing the file name?
Oh, isn't that cool? Yes.
That might help Bill too.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the
I wanna
next
know that, cause I need to upload them, and last night at 11:30, I just said, forget this, I'm going to bed and I'll do them more.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just trying to see if I have. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to any course because it doesn't really matter. I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so I'm just gonna go to, I'll go back to that course I was just in. Really good question. So we're gonna go to an assignment, just any assignment. And here we go. There's my presentation. So, imagine, if you will, your students are turning in all the assignments. They all turn it in on time. They did, yes, absolutely. What you're gonna see is you're gonna see, actually, I can do that right now. Do you have a file in here I can just download? That way I can show you without imagining. You know, okay. So what you would see, and I'll show you how to, it's more of a, you have to use your imagination. Right, so what you would, the discussion, why am I getting discussions? That's it, there we go. So what you'll see on this right side is you'll see SpeedGraders, then you're gonna see how many submissions. So you'll see like, there was 0 of 10 submissions graded, so you have 10 submissions. You'll see a button underneath here called download, right? You click on download, and that's gonna download a zip file, or folder, with all your submissions, all 10 files in there, right? And Canvas is gonna have a very specific naming structure for each of those folders, each of those files. As soon as you click download, another button will appear below that that says upload, right? So if you take that folder and you go through and you edit every single Excel file, like you did, Bill, then you can edit it and make your in-text comments. And as long as you haven't changed any of the names in that folder, you can click upload and then upload that folder, and then Canvas will redistribute all of those files to the appropriate student, so it goes exactly where it needs to go.
One trick that I found last night, which is why I was just like, forget it, it's past my bedtime.
That's right.
And I don't wanna make a mistake, is on my computer, I was using the Microsoft browser and I downloaded them all, and it downloaded into a temp file. So I had to follow the cookie trail to go find that temp file and move it back to a place where I could find it, because like I've opened it up Excel and it's not showing that I did anything, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start pulling my hair out and look like Wayne in the morning. I don't wanna do that. You know, he's a good looking guy, but hey, just gotta go there. But so that's an important thing to think about when you're doing this, if you have to go that route, is to find that the zip file with the temp file, and move that into a place where you can find it accessible.
A lot of times when you download, you have the option of downloading to a certain location.
Here's download.
Download, where do you
To
download?
set on the browser, you can.
Yeah.
I mean,
put it where you want, like put
download
it,
folder or something.
I always put it like in the desktop, so it's just there, right on the desktop for me, so I download it and I click desktop and then download from the desktop, and then I don't lose it.
Yeah, and I don't remember the options at that point, you know, I was just like, I gotta get this done, click, 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 and then you're like, where is it, okay,
Yeah.
troubleshoot, and we found it.
Did you have a question?
So my professor that I work under, their students have introductions, they've had animation before, and each class she just print them all off, like maybe buttons.
The what was that? Instructions?
They had,
Yeah.
introductions,
Yeah.
that she just wants to print off all of them, but, the only way that we could figure out how to do that was to download the submissions and then put on each one of them, is that what she's been having to do, is there?
That's what I am aware of, is there, do you know of anything else, Ed? Anybody else in the room? Yeah, so yeah, that's.
Yesterday, I was like, that's the way.
I mean, the other way you could do it is just go into the speed grader and just copy them all, and then put them onto one Microsoft file, or one file, and print off that. I mean, that might be slightly marginally faster, but there's really not a clean way of doing it.
Well, or they could do it in discussions and then you just print the whole discussion board. I mean, you're gonna get some extra stuff in there, but it's all in one place then, it's not printing.
So instead of having them, instead of doing an assignment, you have us do a discussion,
Right.
and then they just print off that discussion board. So that might be, in the future, a way to do it. Great question.
Well,
Thank you.
and that's a way to think of community too, because they see who else is in the class.
Yes. Last question, and then I'll have to let us go, and then I'll stick around.
Okay. So in the downloading, it doesn't allow you to download part of the. Can you download maybe the whole list, then upload a part of it? Maybe of that. Maybe you downloaded 10 and you upload 6.
As long as, from what I'm aware, as long as you keep those names the same, those names then are linked to the students, you can't upload those back in. Though if you were to upload a new file, I would just say, yeah, you can just delete those, because it's all just the naming convention. So I'm getting nods in the audience, so
I
yes.
think you can select them, right? You select the ones you wanna upload.
Yeah.
So you would just select the ones you wanted to.
Yes. So you can, yeah, just select them and upload them.
So the second part of the question was in the student the grading, when the student had already uploaded the assignment, then you would grade on the system, then they re-upload again, whatever you graded disappears.
It should. We'll talk about that. I'll talk to you, that's a more specific case, and I'll wrap this up. So, thank you all for your attendance today. We really appreciate it. And again, one more hand for Sarah. And please fill out your evaluations. Those really help us make this also better. Really take your evaluations to heart. So that blue evaluation sheet, just fill that out if you would, please. And next week, please come again, and bring a buddy. So we'd love to have you. We're gonna have next week, we're gonna have Kristen Ciarto coming and talking about the Canvas gradebook. There's been lots of changes to the Canvas gradebook lately. We're gonna discuss all of those changes. She's gonna talk about all the mistakes she initially made with the gradebook, how she's improved over time. I was really interesting, kind of the tricks she's been doing, and then we'll talk about some of the big changes that have been happening in Gradebook in the last 3 months or so. So please come back for that, bring a buddy, we'll see you hopefully next week. Thanks a lot.